Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tosfos Dibur HaMaschal, Loi Mechayev Rebbe Eller B'Rishus HaYachid Mekera. Let's begin by looking at the flowchart of the Gemara so we could see what Tosfos is coming to explain. So here in the Gemara, we presented a case of Rebbe, where an individual threw an item from one Rishus HaRabim to another Rishus HaRabim, and it went through the Rishus HaYachid, and Rebbe said he's Chayev. And Rabbi Yehuda explained that when Rebbe says Chayev, he means he's Chayev two Chiyuvim. One, when it went from the Rishus HaRabim into the Rishus HaYachid, that's one Chiyuv. And then when it went from the Rishus HaYachid out to the Rishus HaRabim is another Chiyuv. So it seems that we see from there that Rebbe doesn't make it necessary for the Hanacha or the Akira to be from an area that's 4 by 4 Tfachim. Said the Gemara, there's no proof from there because Rav and Shmuel already taught regarding this case of Rebbe that it's referring to Rishus HaYachid Mekera. Loi mechayev Rebbe Eller Rishus HaYachid Mekera. Rebbe did not make one chayev unless it was a Rishus HaYachid that was roofed. If there was no roof, he wouldn't be chayev. It's only when there's a roof. And the reason he's chayev is because we say Beisa Kemanda Mal Yadamya. It's as if the house is full of objects, and therefore, since it's full of objects, when the item was thrown into the house, it's as if it came to rest on those objects. And then when it continued moving out of the house, it's as if the akira was done from those objects. And therefore, it comes out that there was a hanacha and there was an akira from an area that's 4 by 4 tefachim. So this is what Tosfos is going to focus on, this teaching of Rav and Shmuel. The Rav and Shmuel explained that Rebbe is referring to a case of Rishus HaYachid Mekera. So let's see the general outline of Tosfos. Rav and Shmuel explained that Rebbe was only mechayev in the Rishus HaYachid Mekera. So Tosfos is two parts of Tosfos. First is Tosfos will explain how do Rav and Shmuel know this. Rebbe only said that if it went through the Rishus HaYachid, the person's chayev, and we learned that it means he's chayev two chiyuvim. How do Rav and Shmuel know that Rebbe is only going to be mechayev a person the two chiyuvim if it's a Rishus HaYachid Mekera? Rebbe didn't say that. Rebbe said a Rishus HaYachid. It would seem that it applies to any Rishus HaYachid. The second part of Tosfos is Tosfos will show how Rav and Shmuel, who interpret Rebbe to be talking about a Rishus HaYachid Mekera, and the reason is basic command Mal Yadamya, they don't fit with the Gemara that clearly learns that Rebbe learns chayiv because of kluta. And Tosfos then will explain the Gemara according to Rav and Shmuel, how they're going to have to deal with the problem that Gemara over there presents. So let's see the Tosfos inside in the flowchart form. So Rav and Shmuel explained that the case of Rebbe is the Rishus HaYachid Mekera. So the first goal of Tosfos is to support Rav and Shmuel, to tell us what they're based on. So he's not going to ask what they're based on and answer it. He's just going to go straight to the explanation what they're based on. Therefore, it's an arrow. At the same time, since he's answering a question, the text will start off in green. So it says Tosfos, it's from the Rashba, that the way Rav and Shmuel know this is because Rebbe did not refer to a case where a person threw it from a Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid over Rishus HaRabim, like the case of Rabbi Kiva and the Rabbanon. If Rebbe meant to say the reason it's chayiv is because of kluta, then he would have referred to a case where the only possible understanding and explanation is kluta, and that would be if a person threw it from one Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid over Rishus HaRabim. If he's chayiv two chiyuvim, it must be that Rebbe holds of kluta. But since Rebbe did not refer to such a case where there's no questions and no problems, and it's 100% clear, rather referred to a case where it was Rishus HaRabim, he threw it from Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaRabim, and there was a Rishus HaYachid in between, it must be he chose that case for a reason. And what's unique about a Rishus HaYachid is that it could be a Rishus HaYachid Mekera, and the reason would be because of basic command of Mal Yadamya. So since if Rebbe would have meant to be based on Kluta, he would have spoken about a case where the only explanation is Kluta, and he didn't, therefore we know that his reason is not Kluta, rather it must be the unique reason that's found by a Rishus HaYachid, that some Rishus HaYachid have a roof, and there the explanation would be basic command of Mal Yadamya. So there Tosfos explains what Rav and Shmuel are based on. Now Tosfos is going to move on to say that there's a Gemara in Gittin that doesn't fit with Rav and Shmuel. So he's just going to present it as a fact, but since it's sort of a question and an answer, the question is, what about that Gemara? And he's going to answer, it doesn't fit with Rav and Shmuel. Again, it'll be in red and green, but within the arrow, since he's just pointing it out straightforward. He didn't ask a question. It says Tosfos. We'll give some background information. There's a Mishnah Masechtas Gittin that presents two cases of a husband divorcing his wife in various ways. And the second case is if he threw the get when he was standing on the roof and his wife was standing in a courtyard down below, he threw her the get, and the Mishnah says that even if the get falls into a fire before she receives it, she's divorced. And the Gemara explains that two things, that it's referring to a case where the walls of the courtyard were very high. The Gemara says, and the reason she's divorced is because this Mishnah follows the opinion of Rebbe that says Kluto Kimisha Hun Chadamyo, That's when an item is contained in the ear of a rishus, it's as if it's resting in that rishus, and therefore, although the woman never got the get, she's still divorced, since when it entered the ear of that rishus, it's as if it's resting there. So we see that Gemara understands that Rebbe is built on and based on the reason of Kluta. So it says Tosfos that obviously doesn't hold of Rav and Shmuel, who say that Rebbe is not saying Chayiv because of Kluta. Rebbe says Chayiv because of Rosh Hashanah and Mekera, and we say basic command of Mal Yadanya. However, this creates a question. So this is really the main part of Tosfos, which is to tell us what Rav and Shmuel are based on, and to point out that they don't fit with the Gemara in Gittin. But this poses a question, which is how are Rav and Shmuel going to understand the din in the Mishnah? Why, when a husband throws his wife a get, he's standing on the roof and she's standing in the lower courtyard, and she never actually got it. Rather, it fell into a fire. Why is she divorced? She never got the get, and we're not saying kluto. And Tosfos over there explains that we cannot say that Mishnah follows Rabbi Kiva for whatever reason. So then, why is she divorced? It doesn't follow Rabbi Kiva, and we don't hold of kluto. Why is she divorced? So Tosfos says they're going to answer very simply that the reason. So it's answering a question again. It's in green, but he doesn't ask. He goes straight to the explanation, and they will explain that the reason she's divorced is because by Shabbos we need actual hanach. So therefore we need kluta if we want to say that an item is resting. However, by a divorce we don't need the item to be resting. There's no need for that. What's needed by a divorce is that it should be protected. And since the walls of the courtyard are very high, therefore when the husband threw his wife the get, once it entered the walls of the courtyard, it's already considered protected and it's good enough. So by a get we don't have a condition that the item should be resting, that the get should be resting. All that's needed by the get is that it should be protected, and it is. And how do we know that this is enough? Tosfos says it's actually written clearly in the Gemara there. The Gemara there continues and says that the truth is we don't have to be based on a Rebbe who says Kluta, because the Gemara there understands that Rebbe is based on Kluta. We don't have to say the Mishnah is based on a Rebbe who says Kluta. We can even say it follows the Rabbanon. And the reason the woman's divorced, although she never received the get, it got burnt in the fire, and Rabbanon don't hold of Kluta, so it never came to rest, is because by Shabbos we needed to rest, but by a get we don't need it to rest. By a get what we need is it should be protected, and it is protected since the walls of the courtyard were very high. So to summarize the Tosfos, first we explained what Rav and Shmuel are based on when they say that Rebbe is referring to only to a Rosh Hashanah and Mekera, but otherwise there's no chiyuv. How do they know that? Then we explained how their interpretation of the case of Rebbe doesn't fit with a Gemara in Masechtas Gittin understanding of Rebbe, and then we explained how, according to them, they will need to explain the Mishnah over there, how it could still fit with Rebbe, just like it fits, like we said over there, with the Rabbanon.